Good morning. On behalf of the California ISO, I'd like to welcome you to the Capacity Procurement Mechanism CPM Enhancements Initiative meeting to discuss the straw proposal, which was posted on July 26th. My name is Elisandra Casillas, representing the Stakeholder Affairs Group here at the ISO, and I will be facilitating today's meeting. And I'm also joined by C.B. Hall, Senior Policy Developer, and Abdul Muhammad Ali, Resource Management Specialist Lead. This presentation, other materials related can be found on the initiative webpage. Next slide, please. Some housekeeping reminders. This call is being recorded and the video file will be posted on the initiative webpage for information and convenience purposes only. The recordings and any related transcription should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. The meeting is structured to stimulate dialogue and engage different perspectives. Please keep comments professional and respectful. And in the interest of time, please try and be brief and refrain from repeating what has already been said so we can manage the time efficiently. Next slide, please. Instructions for questions. We will pause for questions periodically throughout the meeting. You can raise your hand by selecting the hand icon above the chat window in WebEx, or if you join via audio only, please press #2 on your device. Please state your name and affiliation first before making your comments. And if you need technical assistance during today's meeting, please feel free to send a chat to the event producer or myself. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let us know in the all panelists and myself. Next slide, please. For today's agenda, after I'm finished with the welcome and introduction, I will turn it over to CB and Abdul to introduce and provide a background on the CPM Enhancements Initiative, followed by a discussion on CPM Enhancements Track 1 Straw Proposal, Section 4.1, reducing the volume of significant event CPM designations when the designated capacity is committed and visible to the ISO. Section 4.2, reducing the term of significant event CPM designations when a designated capacity is already committed but not visible to the ISO. Section 4.3, CPM reporting. Section 4.4, CPM market notices. Section 4.5, CPM notifications to scheduling coordinators. Then we will close with the next steps and proposed schedule at the end of the meeting. Next slide, please. This graphic depicts the ISO stakeholder process. We are currently in the straw proposal development phase of the stakeholder process. I'll review the next steps in the process at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. And from here, I will now turn it over to C.B. Hall.
Thanks, Ellie. And Tree, you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, good morning, everyone. And yeah, thanks very much for taking the time to be on the call. Before we get into the Track 1 straw proposal, just some quick background as a refresh. We're talking this morning about the ISO's Capacity Procurement Mechanism, or CPM, and we use our CPM authority to address resource adequacy deficiencies and or potential reliability concerns. And our tariff specifically outlines circumstances that are defined by 6 CPM designation types. So we'll show you those designation types on the following slide. Also, our CPM authority is often referred to as a type of backstop procurement. And the reason for this is because the goal really is for the upfront RA program to get the right types and quantities of resources procured. But if that doesn't happen and we do need to make a CPM designation, we rely on capacity that is willingly offered to the ISO by resource owners through our annual, monthly, and intramonthly competitive solicitation processes, or CSPs. And as you all know, in these CSPs, resource owners can offer their eligible capacity to the ISO at prices up to a soft offer cap, which is currently set at $6.31 per kilowatt month. Resource owners also have the option to submit offers above the soft offer cap, the prices above the soft offer cap, but those must be cost justified at FERC. Okay, so that's some quick background on CPM. If we can go to the next slide, Shreya. Okay, great. This is the, as I was just referring to, this is the list of the 6 CPM designation types that you can find in our tariff. And I just want to call your attention to, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I can hear mild static on the line. So can you please give me a few minutes? I will fix that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great. Is it my mic, Shreya, or is it just something else?
Something else. I'll get back.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. Cool. So sounds good, everyone. We're on board here to go. Okay. So what? Yeah, we're just in the intro section here. These are the 6 CPM designation types that are listed in our tariff, and I'm just going to call your attention to number 4, which we refer to as a significant event CPM, and number 5, which we refer to as an exceptional dispatch CPM. And the reason I call these out is because we're going to be referring to both of these when we get to the straw proposal. So Shreya, if you don't mind going to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about the actual initiative. So this is the CPM Enhancement Stakeholder Initiative. We're planning to launch at least 2 tracks. The track 1 is the focus of today. And we have 5 operational proposals that we think are pretty straightforward. They're labeled here 4.1 through 4.5. You can see that both 4.1 and 4.2, they both deal with significant event CPM designations, and they both deal with the interactions between such designations and other capacity commitments. So we'll get into that in a sec. And then proposals 4.3 through 4.5 deal with reporting, market notices, and notifications to scheduling coordinators. And then track 2, we have not launched yet, but track 2, the plan is to re-examine the CPM soft offer cap. This will probably require a longer stakeholder process, and that's kind of the reason why we wanted to get moving immediately with track 1, because we think it's a bit more straightforward, and we really want these items to be implemented in advance of next summer. So that's kind of the idea. The other note I'll just make on track 2 is we actually have a tariff obligation to launch a stakeholder initiative at least every 4 years to re-examine the soft offer cap. So if you're wondering, hey, why are you looking for soft offer cap again? Didn't we just do that? The answer is yes, we did. There was a stakeholder process that was started in May 2019. So we, under our tariff, we have an obligation to launch track 2 at the latest by May 2023. But we would ideally like to get started much sooner than that. And we also have some ideas for how to improve the soft offer cap, but we definitely want to talk to all of you about that, and that is a discussion for another day. Yeah, maybe I'll pause here and see, Ellie, if there are any questions before we get into the track 1 straw proposal.
It does look like we have one individual in the queue. Shreya, will you please unmute Todd?
Sure. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Morning. Todd Ryan speaking from PG&E. Hey, thank you so much for all the introduction. I have a quick question, which please don't take it as a gotcha question. It's just purely curious. Is there a reason that we went straight to a straw proposal as opposed to an issue paper?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Todd, for bringing that up. Actually, because we basically felt that track 1, if you look at the scope of track 1 here, it's pretty straightforward and operational items. We essentially, the issues are kind of embedded in the straw proposal itself. So that was the reason we didn't think there was a need to have that 2-step process. These are pretty specific fixes that we're trying to make. hopefully that.
Great. Thank you so much.
And yeah, okay. Thank you.
CB, if I can add.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of these issues, cleanup items, like CB said, we've kind of faced in the past couple summers when doing a significant event, CPM specifically. So we're hoping to do all of this, kind of accelerated, so we're ready for the summer, next summer. If we need to do any CPMs, these can be implemented before next summer. So we have all these cleanup items done ahead of that. So again, like CB said, minor stuff. We don't think these are, big policy changes. They're more of kind of process enhancements, and we want them before next summer. So we're kind of moving fast with this.
Great. All perfectly understood. Thank you.
I do see one more caller in the queue. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, this is Jamie Gannon from Energy Division. Hi, CB. I just wanted to.
Morning, Jamie.
Morning. I just wanted to better understand, I guess, the track 2. I know you didn't really hit on what the scope is there, and I'm sure you're still thinking about what's going to be included. But in the past, when we've looked at the CPM soft offer cap, we've utilized the CEC's study, and I know in the last round when we looked at it, there was, the price had actually gone down, and there was question around the reference unit being used. And so I'm just curious if you guys are going to be utilizing any CEC study, or if you're going to be trying to, which historically has been used to set the CPM soft offer cap. So if you could give kind of your thinking around that, and also maybe just touch on kind of the timing, like, are you guys planning on putting out an issue paper for track 2 maybe sometime in the early part of the year or later this fall?
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, great questions. So just to the first part of your question, yeah, we would definitely be talking to the CEC about going forward fixed costs of combined cycle unit. I know that's the reference unit in our tariff. So that would be the idea to look at updated numbers there. But there, that may not be the only appropriate reference point. But we want to talk to all of you about different ideas for the soft offer cap, and whether it should be updated, whether it should be restructured. But yes, to answer your question about the CEC study, that would definitely be an important data point to consider. And then in terms of the timing, we're not sure yet, to be honest, when we're going to launch track 2, but I don't want to promise anything right now. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
But if Gabe, I invite Gabe if he would like to say anything as well on track 2 as well. Gabe Murtaugh. Or we can just keep going. Either way.
Looks like Gabe may be muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Double muted.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. We'll talk to you more soon, for sure.
Okay, I do not. Yes, I do not see any other callers in the queue as of now.
Okay, great. Then let's go to the track 1 straw proposal.
Next slide.
Do you want me to advance the slide? Okay.
Oh, yes, please. Thanks, Shreya. And one more. And I'll also just mention, Abdul, please jump in whenever you want. So here we go. This is proposal 4.1, the first of our 5. What we're trying to do here is give ourselves the ability to make midterm significant event CPM award reductions, so megawatt reductions, if the designated capacity receives an RA contract, RMR contract, or monthly CPM designation that begins during the term of the significant event CPM. And so one thing I want to point out right away, we already have this authority and flexibility for exceptional dispatch CPMs. And this chart here over on the right, actually took it right from the BPM. This illustrates our existing authority related to exceptional dispatch CPMs. So if you look at this chart, this is for one resource, and it shows the capacity commitments for this resource across 2 months, month A on the left and month B on the right. And if you look at month A on the left, you can see that this resource has an RA contract that is represented by the blue bar there. So that's the megawatts of RA. And then in addition to the RA contract, it has an exceptional dispatch CPM, and the value of that in megawatts is equal to the difference between the horizontal red line and the horizontal blue line. So that's the exceptional dispatch CPM, and that you can see starts mid-month. It starts in the middle of month A, and it's a 30-day CPM, and it goes into month B. And now if you look at month B, you can see that the RA contract, the RA volume has gone up from the blue bar to the yellow bar. And so the ISO, what the ISO does is we reduce the exceptional dispatch CPM award accordingly so that we don't have overlapping capacity. And the CPM award becomes the difference between the red horizontal line and the yellow horizontal line. So that's what we do today for exceptional dispatches. All we're trying to do is extend the same authority and logic over to significant event CPMs. And if we can do that with a tariff adjustment, that will allow us, to take advantage of uncontracted capacity in a specific calendar month, even if that uncontracted volume is not available for a full 30 days. So it's kind of unlocking, the whole goal here is to unlock uncontracted capacity and make things more efficient. Abdul, did you want to add anything or do?
No, I think that's perfect, CB. If people want a numerical example, we can do that. But if it's, like you said, it's an existing, authority for EDCPM, we're extending it to significant event CPM. So if there's anyone if it's not clear, or people have questions, we can add to that. But I think you got it. Thank you.
Great. Does anyone have questions? Ellie, let's see if there's anyone in the queue for this.
Yes, I do see one caller in the queue. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, this is Carrie Bentley with the Western Power Trading Forum. Sorry, I actually raised my hand in the beginning. I was pulling in on my phone, and for some reason I wasn't called on. So I have a question on this, and then I have a question around the scope, if that's okay. I can also wait to ask my scope question at the end if that's better. But my question, yeah, just let me know at the end of this. So my question on this, though, is whether this is a tariff change or a process change. You kind of were using them both interchangeably. And I'm looking at the tariff section you referenced, and I guess I don't quite understand why it's prohibiting you from doing this now. So can you clarify whether this has to go to FERC or whether you could just do this absent FERC approval?
My understanding is that this would be both a tariff and a process change. But Abdul, is that your understanding?
That is my understanding as well. Yeah, we'll have David on if we're saying anything incorrect here. But I think that extension, that reduction carried is under the CPM tariff section, the EDCPM, tariff section. So it's, at least my understanding, is specifically related to the EDCPM. That's why we need, tariff and here process change.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That's really helpful. And then going back, can I ask my scope question, or do you want me to hold?
Is it on track 1?
No, it's on track 2. That's why I don't mind holding.
Okay, yeah. Then Carrie, that would be terrific if you don't mind holding till the end. That would be great.
Yep, not at all. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next caller in the queue. Please go ahead.
Hi, CB. This is Jamie again from CPUC. I have a question about this one. I'm thinking about the example of a LSE that's contracted for a new generation resource, and the new generation resource is not visible to the CAISO at T-minus 45 because it's not yet COD. But it does have an RA contract, and you say it becomes COD at T-minus 15, at which point, or T-minus 0, it becomes, COD, and it has an RA contract, but the CAISO's already CPM'd it. Is this like one of these improvements that would change and allow the resource to count as RA and show up as RA rather than designated CPM? Or am I not understanding this enhancement?
That is a good question. I would need to think about that, and I invite others to jump in here.
Yeah, Jamie, this is not really. We're not extending. We're not adjusting the timelines. So in here, we're simply, we have authority today to adjust the ED CPM megawatts over the following month if there's a change in the RA capacity or RMR or other CPM. So we can make those adjustments. We saw that there's benefit to extending it to the significant event CPM in the past summers to the CAISO and to the suppliers, so we can benefit from that capacity immediately. But the T-minus 30 deadline, we're not changing any of that. So if someone is not COD by T-minus 30, they cannot be RA. Again, the rules they can be NQC for next month. If we need a CPM for next month for significant event or ED, that can happen. But your scenario of a resource becoming COD at T-minus 15 and then us procuring it for that purpose to get it on the RA fleet, we're not touching any of that or discussing any of that here. It's just, this is strictly the standard CPM process timelines. We're following the same timelines. We're just extending that functionality from the ED CPM to the significant event CPM. So no, we're not touching the RA timelines basically here or modifying them.
Got it. Okay. So can you just give me like an example of how this would work then? Like you have a 2-month CPM contract that you've done through exceptional dispatch, and it's generator A, and can you give me kind of an example of like, okay, and then LSEA contracts for that resource, and then we modify it? Can you give me that example?
Sure. CB, do you want me to do the example, or you want to do it? What do you have in mind here?
Sure. Go for it, Abdul.
Okay. Thanks. I'll do something very simple. So if we're looking at the illustration here in front of us, so let's say in month A we have 100. The resource that we're talking about, let's say it's a 100 megawatt resource. This 100 megawatt resource in month A, it has 50 RA and 50 non-RA. And then for month B, it's 100 megawatt RA, just fully RA in month B, half RA in month A. Today, if we do an ED CPM, if we ED the unit to 100, we need the full unit, we ED it to 100, we offer a full CPM amount to the 100, so the remaining 50 will get a CPM payment. So 50 RA will be the same. The additional 50 that we ED'd will get a CPM payment, and then that's for month A. For month B, that CPM award will be adjusted automatically to 0 because in month B the resource is fully RA. That's how the ED works today. The significant event works today where that 50, we'd say, hey, resource, we want you 50 for the remainder of the month. We want that capacity. They cannot accept the offer because they cannot do a 50 megawatt 30-day minimum designation. So minimum designation of a CPM is 30 days. They cannot accept our CPM offer because they have to honor it for 50 days. We don't have that reduction rule available to the significant event and therefore we lose that 50 megawatts in month A. We cannot benefit from it for the purpose of a CPM. What we're trying to do here, we're trying to extend that ED CPM authority to the significant event authority, where post this policy change, if we need it, if we declare a significant event and we need this resource, we can offer it that 100 megawatt, that's it, the additional 50 megawatt as CPM. Our offer will still be a 30-day offer. However, due to that rule that now being added to the significant event, the CPM megawatts for month B would drop to zero automatically due to the increase in the RA amount. And now we benefited from the resource in month A, that additional 50 megawatt capacity, no conflict with the resource not being able to accept it. It seems to be a win-win for the CAISO and the resource here, which is a win for reliability. Does that make sense, Jamie?
I think that makes sense. And just on the timing of this, like, could it be an annual CPM award and then it's reduced later based upon the RA, or is it just in the, give me the timing.
Okay, so this extension of authority is strictly to the significant event CPM. So proposal 4.1 and 4.2, they're only significant event changes. So I think we mentioned it here somewhere. But anyway, so yeah, this is only for significant events. We're not touching the other types of CPM.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Abdul. Do we have other? Okay.
Yeah, I do not see any other callers in the queue as of now.
Great. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Here, thank you. Okay, so proposal 4.2. Here, we are proposing to allow generators to voluntarily accept significant event CPM designations for less than 30 days when the designated capacity has already been committed for the upcoming month, but the commitment is not visible to the ISO. So in the previous proposal, we were talking about interactions with commitments that were visible, that are visible to the ISO, and specifically, we're talking about RA, RMR, and other monthly CPMs. Here, we're talking about interactions with commitments that are not visible. And so what do we mean by that? So a couple examples, a commitment to a counterparty outside the ISO. That would be one example. Another would be RA capacity that is not shown on an ISO supply plan. And so in both of these cases, we can't see it. It's not in FARA, we can't see it, but it is nevertheless a commitment, and it prevents generators from accepting 30-day, as Abdul was talking about, minimum 30-day CPM, significant event CPM designations. And so it's kind of locking up uncontracted capacity. So just to show an example of this, if you look at the two charts at the bottom of the slide, I'll just quickly walk you through this. Bottom left is the status quo example. So you can see here's a resource that has a commitment to a non-ISO counterparty in month B. So it's pretty much almost totally booked up in month B, right? But the ISO cannot see that. We don't have any visibility into that. And so in the middle of month A, we try to make a 30-day significant event CPM designation. They're unable to accept that because it would interfere and overlap in month B with this other commitment. So what we're proposing to do is allow the ISO would still offer to make a 30-day designation, but the generator would be able to say, no, can't do that, but I can do 15 days. And we would be able to move forward with a 15-day designation, something less than 30 days, to allow the resource CPMs in month A, but not conflict with the other commitment in month B. So that's what we're trying to do here. But it would be completely voluntary for the generator to accept this shorter term significant event CPM. So that, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do in 4.2. Does anyone have questions about 4.2?
As a reminder, if you're connected to the computer audio or use the Call Me feature in WebEx, you may enter the question queue by using the WebEx raise hand icon located just above the chat panel. You'll hear a beep tone when your line is unmuted. At that time, please state your name and question. If you're just on the phone line and not using the WebEx audio, please dial #2 on your phone to enter the question queue. You'll hear a notification when your line is unmuted. At that time, please state your name and question. You can also put your question in the chat. To submit a written question, select all panelists from the drop-down menu in the chat panel, enter your question in the message box provided, and send.
Yes, it looks like we do have a few individuals in the queue.
Yes, I do see one caller in the queue. Please, I'm sorry, I see a couple of callers in the queue. Please, moving on to the first caller, please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hey, CB, Carrie Bentley with the Western Power Trading Forum. This all makes sense to me. I was just wondering if then the term and the cost reduction for being available for less will then feed into the section in the tariff that talks about minimizing the overall cost to the reliability need. So if you now have two resources that have been in the same and one has, 15 days available and the other one has 30, whether you would then take the 15-day over the 30 because it would be cheaper.
That's interesting. But I think part of that question, wouldn't that also get at your reliability need across the entire 30 days, right? In short, though, I don't know the answer to that. But
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to bring it up. It's tariff section 43A 4.2.2 that talks about how you have to choose, which resources. And that's for EDs, but there's another section, maybe it's the next one, that talks about how you have to choose between resources when they bid in the same. So just wondering how this would impact it.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Carrie, thanks for bringing that up. Definitely think about that as well.
Hey, CD, this is Gabe. Just to respond to that last question, I think this actually would help Carrie because now, if it's possible to stack two separate resources, potentially two cheaper resources, we could potentially do that instead of using one more expensive resource. I think in practical terms, a lot of times when we're making these CPMs, there may not be a whole ton of additional capacity out there, like the significant event designations that we made last summer. But I do think in some circumstances where there is a significant amount of capacity, this could actually help with cost savings.
Yep, that makes sense to me. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Carrie.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, this is Noah Tom from Middle River Power. Just a couple of questions. Do you have this authority for non-significant event CPMs already?
No, I don't think so. No, this would be new type of authority, right, Abdul?
That's correct. We don't have this authority for anything, and we're just suggesting to add it for significant event.
What is sort of special about significant event versus exceptional dispatch that you wouldn't want that available for other types of CPMs?
Abdul, do you want to take this one as well?
Yeah, we talked about it. I'm trying to remember what we said. Let me see. I think with the ED, we needed the unit, even if it's for 1 day, and we had the exceptional dispatch it for reliability need, for a specific megawatt value, and then we offered it. Then we offered that amount to the, because of the tariff requirement, we have to offer them that 30-day CPM offer. Even if we needed them for that day, we still need to offer them that 30-day offer. So they have to respond to that ED. We're not giving them a choice, and then they can accept the offer or reject it. So there's more flexibility on their side. You know, we're getting the reliability need. They have the flexibility to accept or reject. In the case of the CPM, significant event CPM, we need the resource for that entire period. I'm sure you've seen the past summers when we did that significant event. It was from multiple months. We did it 1 month at a time, but we needed it maybe for most of the summer. So there is a need for an extended period. If they cannot fulfill the extended period due to contracting, we still want to benefit from it even for that 15-day or whatever it is. So we want to add that flexibility. It's advantageous to us and to the resource that we give them the option to accept the shorter term. Again, we're still offering a 30-day term. I think we're not changing the tariff concept of a minimum of a 30-day CPM term. We're still offering it, but they can come back and say, instead of today they say, I can't accept the entire term because I have a commitment next month. Tomorrow, if this gets approved, they can say, you know what, next month I have a commitment, but for this month I can accept the offer, and we're still getting the RA for the remainder of the month that, again, the significant event declared that the entire capacity is needed for at least that month or potentially following months as well if we extend the significant event CPMs.
Okay, so based on sort of your explanation, I think that to me the difference then is simply because for exceptional dispatch you have the capability of altering or the volume for the CPM into a different month, and whereas you didn't have that for significant event CPM, and now that you would want the capability to reduce the length of the CPM designation. But if you're in proposal 4.1, if you're capable of modifying the volume, then you don't need to modify the duration either?
So from our side, we don't need to modify the duration, but what this is addressing, 4.2, is a scenario where we don't have the visibility into the change in month B. So in 4.1 month B, there's a new or an increase in RA or other types of capacity that we have visibility to, which is essentially RA, CPM, RMR. In 4.2, we don't have visibility to that change in month B because these contracts are not visible to the CAISO in the example, like the example CD provided here. So that's why we're giving the generator the option to accept a shorter term.
I can understand the example 1, which is commitments to counterparties outside the ISO, but I don't understand on timing how the ISO doesn't have capacity sort of not shown on a supply plan. The definition of RA capacity is simply capacity shown on an RA plan, or I'm sorry, on a supply plan, right? So if it's not shown to the ISO, then certainly it's not RA capacity.
Agreed. That's how we agree on that. So Noah, because it's not RA to us, we're still going to offer a CPM. So it's going to be a 30-day term. Now the generator cannot accept it because they contracted to someone else. They know they can't accept the CPM from us, the offer. At the same time, they have a contract to maybe another BAA, like in this example. So they can't fulfill both contracts at the same time for the same megawatts. Just because we can't see it, they know they shouldn't do it. So they come in and say, CAISO, I'm not going to accept the 30-day because I have a contract that you can't see. and therefore I can't fulfill the 30-day term. So because we cannot do that reduction, because we don't have visibility to the contract, we're saying, okay, then if you want, you can say, you can accept the term for a shorter period and tell us that, hey, I'm accepting a shorter period. No, it's not, everyone's accepting a shorter period. It's really, you're accepting a shorter period because you have commitment for that remainder RA capacity, non-RA amount that is not visible to the CAISO, a contract that's not submitted to the CAISO. So I think we're on the same page. Is really, how do you address that predicament that some generators face of not being able to take the CPM megawatt, the significant CPM megawatt, even though we need it, they cannot accept it because they have a contract somewhere else, and therefore 4.1 would not apply to them. Therefore, they just have to either, well, they have to reject the entire term CPM offer.
Right. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
It's Mark Smith of Calpine. We've been in this circumstance before, and we found ways around it, Abdul. I mean, we've accepted the CPM designation, but when we show up in a supply plan, the ISO essentially pays us and then charges us back the CPM charge for the months where we're double showing per se, right? So it hasn't been a substantial problem, at least for Calpine. I guess what you're saying is that there have been entities who said, I will reject the CPM offer. Has that been your operational experience?
Correct. And Mark, this specifically when we're talking about, you're talking about 4.2 now, right?
Yes.
Because 4.1, yeah, okay, so what you said is really addressed in 4.1 under an ED CPM, where we can modify the CPM designation and therefore the payment, which we don't have to the significant event today. But what we're talking about here in 4.2 is we don't see, in your example, your RA and your CPM, so you're getting paid for one only. In this case, the CAISO doesn't see the RA because it's something else. Either it's not shown or it's a contract to someone else. It's a contract that is not shown as RA to the CAISO, therefore it's not visible to the CAISO, therefore we can't, adjust the payment or adjust the CPM designation. And we've seen that in the past. That's why we're actually introducing this. All of these are based on actual experiences that we faced.
Okay. I understand the clarification now. Thanks, Abdul.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, this is Todd Ryan from PG&E once again. Hey, I just wanted to offer a potential constructive bit of edits to your slides or future work. I had read this proposal a number of times and not necessarily realized that some of these proposals were specific to a specific type of the exceptional dispatch. Like the slide that you're on doesn't only once kind of mentions it's specific to significant event exceptional dispatch. So I'm just, wherever possible, just try to make it very clear in your wording that it applies to one specific type. I will also note that I still didn't quite understand your back and forth with NOAA on why you don't need this type of flexibility with exceptional dispatch. So if in your next iteration, you could kind of try to tease that out more or consider allowing this flexibility for exceptional dispatch CPMs as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Todd. Just to reiterate though, both 4.1 and 4.2 are very specific to significant event CPM designations. That's what we're addressing in both of these proposals. But we can make sure that that's well understood and try to elaborate a little bit more on what we're doing in each of these in the next version. That sounds like a good suggestion.
Okay, moving on to the next caller in the queue. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, this is Jamie Gannon again with CPUC. Okay, so I'm a bit confused. Maybe you could help clarify, Abdul or CB. So last year we had a bunch of significant event CPMs that came through, and they were not all designated for the first of the month. Some of them are designated mid-month. I'm looking at the notice right now, but I will say that the resources that were designated on, say, July 12th were showing up as an RA plan for the next month. So they didn't receive a full 30-day designation. So can you kind of walk me through, because I know there was a way to accommodate exceptional dispatches not being a 30-day term because they're going to be on the next month's supply plan last year. So what's the change here going to be doing, I guess? Like, how do you kind of square that with what you're proposing here? That will no longer say this is a 30-day designation? And I guess it kind of...
Are you saying EDCPM, Jay? I heard you say EDCPM. Are you talking about significant event, I think?
What was that?
Are you talking about EDCPM or significant event CPM?
I'm sorry, significant event. Yeah, significant event.
Right. I think I'm trying to refresh my memory here. I think the ones that got significant event, they for the next month they were capped out. They hit the entire. They weren't capable of producing anything additional. And I remember, I think we found a way, and David might remember better than me. We found a way that we can designate the 30-day term. It's always a 30-day term, but we found a way to do a 30-day term, and then at the same time, obviously, pay for the remainder of the month. And I think that succeeded in the significant event. If we had justification to ED some of the units, we did that. I think I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. An ED justification, we did that to accommodate this change. But regardless, I think it was definitely for us and for the generators, some of the generators, I guess, it was a hassle to figure out, is there a way we can take the unit, accept it in the significant process, and we benefit from it for the rest of the month. I think we had a challenge. I'm trying to remember here. Definitely, Jamie, if there is non-RA left on the following month, there was no way for us to do a significant event if they can't accept a 30-day term. Those we lost for sure. I'm trying to remember the ones that we might have found a way in the rules to do a significant event 30-day if the resource was capped out next month. I think we found a way out of that and succeeded in those. I'm trying to remember. I can look into it and we can find an example for next call. But I think we did find a way for some of them. But generally speaking, we cannot do anything but offer a 30-day term for significant event, and to the generators, take it or leave it. That's a general rule, and we've struggled with that in the past.
Okay, thanks, Abdul.
Thank you.
Okay, I see one caller in the queue. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Good morning, Christopher McLean, staff, California Energy Commission. To the extent it's possible to put together, or if it already exists, sort of add it to the files in the stakeholder initiative location. If there's a history of CAISO's use of CPM authority, so just sort of recounting through the years by type and megawatt quantity, I think that would be helpful to set some context to sort of how it's been used prior to these changes going into place, and then obviously implementation date would be a bright line for how CPM gets used going forward.
Sorry, Chris, right? Did you? Are you talking about actual designations we've made previously? Because I think that's all published on our website?
Yeah, so I guess if to the extent you can point to, some existing document and sort of add a link to, this space and the stakeholder initiative, that might aid people finding it. If you think that, maybe, I don't know, the DMM annual reports are sufficiently recounting exercise of CPM, maybe that's the spot to go.
Okay.
But I'm just sort of looking for a history, sort of statistical history, all in one place.
In one place.
Just to help set context.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next caller in the queue. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hey, this is Noah Town from Middle River Power again. I'm just following up on the conversation you had with Mark. I'm wondering to help with the ISO's sort of lack of visibility, if the ISO is considered, asking suppliers to submit their capacity sold and being exported out of the ISO on something like a supply plan. And that way, you have the what is sort of committed going out. It may be slightly off of track of this CPM enhancements and potentially sort of more of an RA overall framework, but thought I'd make a suggestion. Thanks.
Thanks, Noah. Can we take that one back? And yeah, I think that's one to take back.
Ellie, I do not see any questions in the queue, but I do see a question in the chat. Would you like to read it out?
Yes, we do have one, and this is from Carly Page. And the question is, how does a generator outside the CAISO get transmission into the ISO for less than 30 days, less than 45 days out?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. So generally speaking, I think they're talking about an import. An import would need import capability. The LSC claiming the import would need import capability on the inner tie that import is coming from to be shown as RA. That's essentially that's an RA question in general. I think that's what they're saying here. Hopefully that's it. That's what the answer they're looking for.
Yes, thank you, Abdul. There are no additional questions or comments in the chat. Please proceed.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone, for all these, really good questions. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this slide here, just a little bit more on 4.1 and 4.2. This slide just attempts to kind of outline some key distinctions between the two proposals. I think we've already talked quite a bit about them, but I'll go through the table anyway, in case it's helpful to just clarify things. So both proposals, right? Both proposals, 4.1 and 4.2, are dealing with significant event CPMs, and both are addressing interactions with other commitments. But 4.1, you can see, addresses commitments that are visible to the ISO, and specifically here we're talking about RA, RMR, and monthly CPMs, whereas 4.2 is addressing interactions with commitments that are not visible. So that's one distinction. The next row here is a little bit more nuanced and kind of harder to talk to, but let me just try my best here. 4.1 addresses basically interactions with commitments, including when such commitments are accepted after the significant event CPM was awarded, whereas 4.2 addresses interactions with commitments, but only when such commitments are accepted before the significant event CPM award was accepted. So 4.2 is a little bit more restrictive on this particular front than 4.1. moving down to the next row, this one hopefully is a little easier. 4.1 is allowing for a reduced award, a megawatt award. 4.2 is allowing for a reduced term. And then finally, the last row, 4.1, gives flexibility to the ISO. It allows us the ability to make a volumetric reduction in the significant event CPM award. 4.2 gives the flexibility to the generator. It gives the generator the flexibility to voluntarily accept a shorter term. So that's the table. I guess I will pause once more in case there are any final questions on these two proposals. So Shreya, is there, or Elliot, anything, or should we keep going?
I do not see any callers in. I'm sorry, Ellie, go ahead.
Oh, Shreya, I was just going to mention the same, that there are no callers in the queue or any comments or questions in the chat. Please proceed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's go to 4.3, the next slide. Okay. So here, the ISO is proposing to meet its CPM designation reporting obligations through OASIS. And the reason for this is we already have the functionality today to send CPM designation information from CIRA to OASIS. And so all we need to do is turn on this functionality and then make some tariff adjustments to allow us to fulfill our reporting obligation through an OASIS posting rather than a website PDF posting. So that's really what we're trying to do here. We've got a couple of screenshots. The screenshot at the bottom it just shows a simple mock-up of the information you'd be able to download from OASIS once we turn on this functionality. The screenshot at the top there just is an example of one of the existing designation report PDFs that you can find on our website. So that's yeah, that's pretty much it. Abdul, anything to add here?
No, you got it, CB. Thank you. That's pretty straightforward on this one.
Okay. Okay, great. Maybe what I'll do is let's just knock through these final three, and then we'll see if there are questions. How about that? So let's go to the next slide, if you don't mind. Okay, market notices. What we're proposing to do here is simply extend our market notice deadline from 2 business days to 5 business days. So this will just give us a little bit of extra time to collect the information we need and get reviews and approvals, and then ultimately issue a CPM designation market notice. So that's all that is. That's pretty straightforward, simple tariff change. And then the final slide, the final proposal, if you don't mind, Shreya, going one more. Notifications to scheduling coordinators. So here we're just proposing to make some minor enhancements to the CIRA user interface to give visibility to the resource scheduling coordinator contact information, so they can see it and make edits so that these notifications are sent to the right contacts. That's all this is. And I don't think we even need a tariff modification on this one. We just want to make it a little bit more user friendly and yeah, keep contact information up to date. So those are the 5 components of track 1. Let's pause here first for any final questions on track 1, and then I think Carrie also had a question on track 2.
Okay, I do see a few callers in the queue. Moving on to the first caller, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Patrick Cunningham with the Public Advocate's Office. I had a question about 4.3, the reporting in OASIS. could that also be enhanced to possibly report the final cost of the CPM designation once it's wrapped up? Or like I know we get estimations in the quarterly and annual market reports, but I'm not sure if actual costs are reported anywhere. And that is, of course, depending on if that's market sensitive information or not. But yeah, would that information be able to be thrown into OASIS as well?
I think the price is in there, right, Abdul? It should be.
Yeah, so the price will be in OASIS. I think Patrick is looking for actual payment after the fact. If I'm correct here,
yes.
That's not something we haven't shared that we can send to OASIS. The settlement is done after the fact. I'm not sure their process exactly. I know they do multiple rounds of settlement payloads or whatever they call them. So I don't know if we can do it into OASIS directly. We can take it back to the team for sure and see what can be done here. But it's not going to be part of this for sure, because this is strictly the CIRA data going to OASIS, which includes the price of the CPM, the accepted price. And after the fact, kind of final bill, if I think what you're looking for, maybe Stevie, we can go back to take it back to the team, settlements team and the legal team to see if that's something we can do.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, it'd be handy to get the actual costs available. I mean, it's pretty easy to estimate it, of course, just rate times megawatt, but that information would be handy either in OASIS or elsewhere. And of course, if it's market sensitive, then it should stay that way too. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, Todd Ryan from PG&E again. Just a quick question that on the 4.3 proposal, is that just going to be future designations, or will those data go back retrospectively?
Just future designation.
Just future designation. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hey, this is Noah Tom from Middleware Power. You mentioned that for 4.3, the ISO already has the capability in OASIS. So essentially, the proposal is to just not to activate that functionality, or has the ISO actually activated the functionality already that it already has?
The functionality is active, but we haven't used it yet because, if I remember correctly, it got completed in CIRA after we finished our CPMs last year. So again, when we don't do retroactive postings, it's really going forward as a CPM happens, we post it to OASIS. So we haven't exercised it yet. It's more of if the functionality is ready, we just haven't exercised it yet.
Okay, so that was part of the last round of CPM initiative for that.
It wasn't part of an initiative. That was just a CIRA enhancement that we requested here in Operations Engineering. Yeah, we requested that CIRA enhancement so we can, as a first step to get to this, basically, really process enhancement, making things more efficient. That's what we're trying to achieve here.
Right. But the proposal is to eliminate the T+30 sort of market notice or the document that gets published onto the ISO website. Will the CIRA, or I'm sorry, not CIRA, will the OASIS information include the changes from 4.1 and 4.2 to such that it's on a 30-day designation, different volumes on a daily basis, so on and so forth? How will that be? Will that be shown?
Yes, it will be. So 4.1 is not. It's still a 30-day designation, but the megawatt CPM megawatts is adjusted, so it's not reflected in the designation itself. It's more of an after-the-fact adjustments by the CAISO. 4.2 is a designation adjustment up front instead of like a 30-day, 15-day, for example. So yeah, that one you'll see in OASIS. The designation will be, we'll have a start date and end date. So you'll see the term, and the term will be shorter than the 30-day term if that's what the generator elects. So you'll see 4.2 in OASIS.
Oh, I see. We will see 4.2, but we won't see changes for 4.1, even if it's corrected. So OASIS won't actually be presenting actual data?
OASIS will be presenting the CPM designation data, and the CPM designation data is a 30-day designation for that megawatt amount. So we're designating 30 days. It's that specific megawatt amount. It's an after-the-fact adjustment for 4.1. This is what we do for the CPM. This is what we're proposing to do for significant event. It's not a CPM designation data. It's an after-the-fact designation modification or CPM megawatt modification to accommodate a change in the RA megawatts. It's just really how we look at the data differently.
Thanks. I'm slightly concerned that market participants won't actually have sort of improved visibility onto what, even after the designation on the post-designation data there is. I do understand the PDF would not have done that either, but if we're trying to have enhancements, maybe the suggestion would be to provide the actual data, from the post-adjustment. Thanks.
Okay. We'll take that back. Thanks.
Moving on to the next caller. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hey guys, it's Mark again. On 4.4, I'm not going to object to this, but it does really. Okay, so the designation report lists the date, the unit, the megawatts, and like one sentence on why you did it. Why wouldn't you know that like 15 minutes after you've done it rather than wait for 5 days to post it?
Okay, Mike, thank you. So the biggest challenge is really with the ED CPM. So the ED CPMs, they can happen anytime, including the weekend, including at night. Then we have a clock ticking 2 days. It's not that we don't have the information. We have to collect it. It's different departments. We talk to system ops, shift supervisors, engineers that did the assessment. We check the response of the unit. Did they respond to the actual dispatch to the full amount we requested? Is that the only amount we needed per reliability studies, or did we need more or less? So we have to collect all that data, make sure everything is correct. We did everything right. The ED was all accurate to the exact amount, and the CPM payment that we're offering or the capacity amount is accurate. Before we send the market notice with that data. We don't want to send anything that's incorrect. We have made it in 2 days. It was a nightmare, though. I'll tell you this. So someone has to drop everything. Once an ED-CPM happens, someone has to drop all what they're doing and just work on that to collect all the information, ensure everything's correct, talk to the engineers and reevaluate the reliability check and make sure this is exactly what we needed. So there's a bunch of stuff that we have to do. So 2 days is doable, but it's really a big hassle for us, a big rush. If we get 5 days, that's a much more comfortable kind of timeline. I don't think it affects anyone externally because they're getting the data after the fact anyway. 2 business days versus 5 is not a big change here, but it helps us a lot. And obviously, we get more time. We can ensure the data is more complete and accurate, avoid mistakes, I guess, from happening in the market notice. Then we have to resend the market notice. So it's just really massively convenient for us to have those few days additional timeline.
Okay, that's helpful color. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not see any other callers in the queue as of now.
Great. Thanks everyone. I think so. Then we'll go to Carrie for track 2.
Carrie, if you'd like, please raise your hand. Okay, looks like I do not see Kerry in the webinar.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for all these, really good comments and questions, and we'll definitely take, we have a lot of stuff to take back and talk as a team. So at this time, I think we're going to turn it back over to Ellie to wrap up. But really appreciate all the insight and people taking the time this morning.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, CV, but I do see one caller in the queue who came in just now. Do you like to take the question?
Sure.
Caller, please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, CV, this is Kathleen Colbert from Vistra. Not Carrie, but I thought I'd jump in and ask a track 2 question since you were calling. I just wanted to get a sense of, and you may have covered this, and I'm just going to ask again to make sure I'm on the same page about next steps. And thanks for everything over the track 1. Seems pretty practical to me. I'll echo kind of Noah's request for some consideration of a post adjustment on the OASIS report. But what I'm not tracking yet, pun intended, is the track 2 timeline. Like, so what is the next steps for track 2? You know, where are we going?
I think what we'd like to do, honestly, is have some further conversations internally, and then launch. I mean, that's where, I mean, we're going to launch track 2, but I don't want to promise a specific timeline. But I would expect sometime this fall, I guess. But
could I make a suggestion? Oh, yeah, sorry, Partha.
Kathleen, this is Partha. I just thought I'd weigh in there. I think we are, right now on track 2, we are, I think as CB alluded to, there's sort of the minimum due diligence we need to do sort of with the existing processes, and I think we're doing a variety of data analyses just in terms of the CEC numbers, making sure that sort of all the existing things make sense. But I think that as a part of the scope there, we really are looking at to try to make sure that the current CPM processes continue to make sense and achieve our objectives, sort of given the changing market landscape. And so we're right now, I think, doing a number of items internally just in terms of analyzing what the system conditions look like in data, and then we're going to be sort of rolling that out in the future. And I know that CB's already indicated that we don't have a set timeline at this point in time, but we hope to let people know soon.
Oh, no, thank you, Partha. And I mean, the track 2, I hear you talking about doing a lot of data and analytics to get a sense of how your view on the soft offer cap. But just to clarify, we are talking about having further discussions about how the soft offer cap is formulated and operates in the CPM processes, correct?
Yes, I'm sure there'll be a part of the scope of it.
That's what I saw in the white paper or the straw proposal, so I just wanted to confirm that. And I wanted to make a suggestion and an offer to kind of fully respect and understand that the CAISO wants to do your due diligence to kind of look at how you view this. This is an element of the CPM design that I'll say that we at Vistra have been thinking a lot about and have some pretty strong, but I hope well-developed ideas about it as well, from a policy perspective, from a functionality perspective. I know I talked a little bit and others talked it when we had that CPM meeting last summer, right? But it would be really great if you would consider doing like a workshop format for track 2 while you're doing your own due diligence on your end. We're not the only entity that has well-developed thoughts and some experience to share on how it's functioning. And it would be really fabulous if you would consider doing that. So I understand we don't have a timeline. We're going to do more due diligence. I kind of see that education, like how is the soft offer cap? How did we get to what we landed on in the tariff and our ability to go seek, cost, additional cost compensation above that? with the formulaic rate that's in the tariff. That's good education. In addition to the education, we can share commercial experience of how it works, what our pain points are, and doing that before you release something more formal, I think would help the process a lot, and I just wanted to make that request.
Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Okay, moving on to the next caller. Yeah, so moving on to the next caller. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get you. Can you please repeat what you said?
Oh, no, thanks, Shreya. I think we can go to the next caller. That's great.
Okay, sure. Caller, please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hey, this is Carrie Bentley with Western Power Trading Forum. Sorry, I had to drop for just a little bit. Is now a good time to ask my questions on track 2?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so a couple questions. I know you said it was just going to be on the price adjustment, but there are a couple other upcoming initiatives that seem to interact with CPM, and I'm wondering if whether there had been any thoughts about scoping that in as well. One would just be RA reform. We do go down that 24-hour slice route, how to translate that into a CPM. Seems like there definitely be changes needed. And then the other one would be EDAM. If we need more resource efficiency resources, it seems like the CPM might be a natural tool to do that within the CAISO space. So I'm wondering how open you are to expanding that scope, or whether the CAISO had given that any thought.
We have definitely been talking about those items internally, Carrie, and I'm not sure if those would go track 2, if those would go, part of the reason we say, like, there's a possibility we'd have a track 3 as well. But yeah, those are both really helpful comments. I don't know if others want to jump in here, but we definitely considering those.
Thanks for that feedback, Carrie. That's really helpful. And yeah, we have been having sort of a number of internal discussions on all of those items, the timing and changes to our programs. I think we're obviously well aware of sort of the changes being made at the PUC with print a slice a day, and need to at least consider in our future processes, any changes we need to make on our side, sort of in light of the changes being made there. So I think that will all be. There'll be certainly time for discussion and feedback on sort of what the scope looks like. But yeah, I think that overall, we're certainly looking at, how do we roll things out and sort of to address sort of the key issues in a logical manner. So yeah, your feedback is really appreciated.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay, I do not see any other callers in the queue as of now.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We're going to I'll turn it back over to Ellie to wrap up.
Thank you, CV. Shreya, can we please go to the next slide, please? And one more. The next step in the proposed schedule is the comment deadline of August 18th. We then plan to publish the draft final proposal on September 16th, followed by a stakeholder call on September 23rd, with comments due on October 7th. We plan to publish the draft tariff language on November 3rd, followed by the publication of the final proposal on November 8th. Comments on the draft tariff language will be due on November 17th, prior to the call. The stakeholder call on the draft tariff language and final proposal is currently scheduled for November 22nd. We will be taking verbal comments on the final proposal during the call itself. And we are scheduled to go to the board in mid-December. Please note the dates shown here are tentative and subject to change. Next slide, please. As a reminder, please submit comments on the straw proposal by end of day August 18th. Using the commenting tool located on the initiative webpage, which is now available. For additional information on the CPM Enhancements Initiative, please visit the initiative webpage. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at isostakeholderaffairs@kaiso.com. Next slide, please. Before we close today's meeting, the ISO is pleased to announce this year's Stakeholder Symposium, which will be held in person at the Safe Credit Union Convention Center in downtown Sacramento on November 9th and 10th. Registration for the event is now open and is available under the Stay Informed tab on kaiso.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at symposiumreds@kaiso.com. Thank you for joining today's discussion. As a reminder, this meeting was recorded for informational and convenience purposes only. The video file will be posted on the initiative webpage for a limited time after this meeting. We look forward to receiving your comments and have a great rest of your day. Operator, you may now conclude the call.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Event Services. You may now disconnect.